I am Rebecca, 32 years old. For my entire life, my parents told me that family comes first, that blood is thicker than water, that everything they did was for my own good. My father, Richard, always said I was too naive for business, too soft for the real world. My mother, Patricia, reminded me constantly that without them, I'd be nothing. But the worst betrayal didn't come from a stranger or a business rival. It came from them, from the two people who were supposed to protect me. On a Wednesday morning in October, I sat in courtroom 4B of the county courthouse. The room smelled like old wood polish and recycled air. My parents sat at the plaintiff's table with their attorney, a sharp-eyed woman in a power suit who looked like she enjoyed crushing people for a living. I sat alone at the defense table, no lawyer, just me and a folder full of documents. The bailiff called the case. Richards versus Richards, civil matter regarding division of assets and reimbursement of loans. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, performing for the judge. My father sat with his arms crossed, his face set in that expression of righteous anger I knew so well. Their attorney stood up and addressed the court. Your Honor, my clients are heartbroken to be here today. They invested everything into their daughter. They paid for her education, supported her during hard times, funded her business ventures. Now she refuses to acknowledge the debt she owes them. We're seeking immediate repayment of $840,000 in loans, plus ownership transfer of certain assets purchased with their money. The judge, a woman in her 50s named Margaret Holloway, looked at me. Ms. Richards, do you have representation? No, Your Honor, I'm representing myself. My mother's lawyer smiled. She thought this would be easy. Do you have a response to the plaintiff's claims? The judge asked. I do, Your Honor, but first I'd like to request that the bailiff read the complete list of assets my parents are claiming ownership of. I think the court should hear exactly what they're demanding. The judge nodded. Bailiff, please read the asset list into the record. The bailiff picked up the document, adjusted his glasses, and began reading. The plaintiffs are claiming full ownership and demanding immediate transfer of the following assets currently in the defendant's possession. 1. The trademark and intellectual property rights to Metatrack Solutions, a healthcare software company. 2. All stock holdings in said company, currently valued at $47 million. 3. The defendant's primary residence at 2847 Oakmont Drive. 4. The defendant's investment portfolio, including stocks, bonds, and cryptocurrency holdings valued at approximately $8.3 million. 5. The defendant's vehicle collection, including a Tesla Model S and a 2022 Audi Q7. 6. All furniture and personal property within the primary residence. And 7. The defendant's wedding ring from her dissolved marriage, appraised value $45,000. The courtroom went silent. Even the court reporter looked up. The judge's eyebrows went up slightly. My parents' attorney's smile had frozen on her face. Because here's what they didn't know. Here's what they hadn't bothered to research before filing this lawsuit. I wasn't some struggling entrepreneur anymore. I wasn't the broke daughter they remembered from 5 years ago. Metatrack Solutions was my company, my software, my work, and it had just been acquired by a Fortune 500 healthcare corporation 3 months earlier for $180 million. I personally netted $89 million after taxes and investor payouts. The $47 million in stock they were claiming, that was just my remaining equity stake in my other ventures. My parents were sitting in a courtroom demanding I hand over roughly $140 million in assets, plus my house, plus my cars, plus my wedding ring, because they claimed I owed them $840,000. They had no idea that the broke daughter they'd been manipulating for years had become one of the wealthiest self-made women in the state. They had no idea that every loan they claimed to have given me, I had documentation proving I'd paid back in full. They had no idea that their greedy lawsuit was about to blow up in their faces so spectacularly that it would make local news. And they definitely had no idea that I had been preparing for this moment for 3 years, waiting for them to finally show their true colors, waiting for them to prove that their love had always been conditional, transactional, and ultimately about control and money. The judge looked at my parents, then at their attorney, then at me. Ms. Richards, I think we need to hear your side of this story. I stood up, opened my folder, and smiled. Your Honor, I'd be happy to explain, but I should warn you this is going to take a while, because my parents didn't just lie about one thing, they lied about everything. The courtroom felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. My mother was whispering urgently to their attorney, her performance of grief momentarily forgotten. My father's face had gone from righteous anger to something that looked like concern. Their lawyer was flipping through papers, clearly trying to figure out what she'd missed in her due diligence. The judge gestured for me to continue. Please proceed, Miss Richards. I walked to the center of the courtroom, my heels clicking on the tile floor. I'd dressed carefully for this day. Navy suit, simple jewelry, hair pulled back. Professional, credible, unthreatening. Everything my parents had always told me I wasn't. Your Honor, my parents claim they loaned me $840,000 over the past 10 years. They've submitted loan documents, bank statements, and a ledger of expenses. On the surface, it looks legitimate, but let me show you what they didn't include. I pulled out my first exhibit, a thick stack of papers held together with a binder clip. These are canceled checks, bank transfers, Venmo receipts, every single payment I made back to my parents over the years. The total comes to $1.2 million. I didn't just pay them back, Your Honor. I paid them back with interest, even though they never asked for interest, because I'm grateful for their help when I needed it. I just didn't realize they were keeping a separate set of books. The judge took the stack, began flipping through it. Her expression didn't change, but I saw her eyes narrow slightly. Miss Richards, are you saying you have proof of repayment for every loan? Yes, Your Honor, every single one. My mother stood up suddenly. That's not true. She's lying. The judge looked at her coolly. Mrs. Richards, please sit down. You'll have your chance to respond. My mother sat, but I could see her hands shaking. My father put a hand on her arm, his face tight. Their attorney was now frantically typing on her laptop, probably trying to figure out how this had gone sideways so fast. I continued. The loans aren't even the worst part, Your Honor. Let me tell you about MediTrack Solutions, the company they're claiming to own. I pulled out another set of documents. I founded MediTrack 8 years ago. I was 24, fresh out of grad school, and I had an idea for software that would help hospitals track patient medications and reduce medical errors. My parents did invest in the company. They gave me $50,000 in seed money. In exchange, I gave them what I thought was fair at the time, 5% equity in the company. The judge was listening intently now. But here's what happened next. As the company started to grow, my parents kept asking for more equity. They said I owed them for raising me, for paying for my education, for believing in me when nobody else did. They made me feel guilty every single day, so I gave them more and more. By the time I realized what was happening, they claimed to own 45% of my company. I placed another document in front of the judge. This is the original operating agreement for MediTrack Solutions. You'll see that I'm listed as the sole founder and 95% owner. My parents have 5% as early investors, but over the years, they had me sign document after document, usually during family dinners or holidays, always saying it was just a formality, updating paperwork, keeping things legal. I trusted them, so I signed. The judge examined the documents. And you're claiming these subsequent agreements were obtained under duress? I'm claiming they were obtained through manipulation, Your Honor. Let me give you an example. I pulled out my phone, opened my photos, and handed the phone to the bailiff to pass to the judge. This is a text message from my mother sent 2 days before I signed over an additional 15% of the company. She wrote, and I quote, "Your father is having chest pains again. The stress of worrying about your business is killing him. If something happens to him, I hope you can live with yourself." The judge read the message, her expression hardening. I continued, "My father was fine, Your Honor. He wasn't having chest pains. But I didn't know that. I was terrified. So when they asked me to sign papers giving them more equity to ease their worries and secure their retirement, I signed. I have dozens of messages like this: guilt, manipulation, emotional blackmail." My mother made a sound like a wounded animal. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. Their attorney looked like she was seriously reconsidering her career choices. "But the really interesting part," I said, my voice getting stronger, "is what happened 3 months ago when Meditrack was acquired. The acquiring company did their due diligence. They examined every document, every agreement, every piece of paperwork, and their legal team found something fascinating." I placed one more document in front of the judge. "This is a report from a forensic document examiner. The signatures on the equity transfer agreements, 12 of them are forgeries. My signature was copied from the original operating agreement and digitally inserted into new documents. I never signed them. My parents created fake paperwork to claim ownership of my company." The courtroom exploded. My mother was crying now, real tears, not performative ones. My father was shouting that it was a lie, that I was making it all up, that I was an ungrateful daughter who was trying to destroy them. Their attorney was trying to calm them down, while simultaneously looking through her own files, probably realizing she'd just participated in a fraud case. The judge banged her gavel. "Order! Everyone sit down and be quiet or I'll clear this courtroom." Everyone sat. The room fell silent except for my mother's muffled crying. The judge looked at the documents for a long moment, then looked at me. "Miss Richards, you're telling me that your parents forged legal documents to steal equity in your company, and when that didn't work because the acquiring company caught the forgeries, they filed this lawsuit claiming you owe them money and assets?" "Yes, Your Honor, that's exactly what I'm telling you. And you have proof of all of this." "I have proof of everything, Your Honor. Bank records showing full loan repayment, the forensic analysis of the forged signatures, email chains showing the manipulation tactics, text messages demonstrating the emotional coercion. I have 8 years of documentation, because somewhere around year 3, I started to suspect this day would come. I started saving everything." The judge sat back in her chair, and for the first time I saw something that might have been respect in her eyes. "Miss Richards, why didn't you bring this to the authorities before? Why wait for them to sue you?" I looked at my parents. My mother was staring at the table, mascara running down her face. My father was staring at me with something that looked like hatred. "Because they're my parents, Your Honor. Because I kept hoping they'd stop, that they'd see what they were doing was wrong, that the people who raised me and told me they loved me would eventually act like it. I gave them chance after chance to do the right thing. This lawsuit was their final answer." The judge nodded slowly. "All right, we're going to take a 30-minute recess while I review these documents. When we return, I want to hear from the plaintiff's attorney about how she plans to proceed given this new information." She banged her gavel. "Court is in recess." As everyone stood, my father finally looked at me directly. "You think you're so smart," he hissed. "You think you've won, but you just destroyed your own family." I met his eyes without flinching. "No, Dad, you did that all by yourself." The bailiff escorted my parents out. Their attorney stayed behind, approaching me with a carefully neutral expression. "Miss Richards, my clients may have misled me about certain facts. I'd like to request a sidebar with you to discuss possible settlement." "No settlement," I said quietly. "We're seeing this through. I want the judge's ruling on record. I want the world to know what they tried to do." She nodded slowly, her face tight, and walked away. I sat alone in the courtroom for those 30 minutes, looking at the empty judge's bench, thinking about how I got here, thinking about all the years of manipulation and guilt and control. Thinking about the moment I finally realized that my parents didn't love me, they loved what they thought they could take from me, and now, finally, the truth was coming out.
My mind drifted back to 10 years earlier. I was 22, fresh out of undergraduate, about to start my master's program in computer science at Stanford. It was my graduation party, held at my parents' house in the suburbs. The backyard was full of relatives, family friends, neighbors. There was a catered buffet, a cake with my name and frosting, balloons tied to every chair. My parents had spared no expense. They never did when there was an audience. The party smelled like grilled meat and summer grass, the sound of conversation and laughter filling the warm evening air. I was wearing a new dress my mother had bought me, white with small flowers, something she picked out because she said it made me look sweet and approachable. I had wanted to wear my blazer and slacks, something that felt more like me, but she'd insisted. "It's a celebration, Rebecca. Don't be so serious all the time." My younger brother, Jason, was also graduating that year, finishing high school. He was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Charming, athletic, popular. Everything came easy to him, or at least that's how it looked from my perspective. Where I had to work obsessively hard for every grade, every achievement, Jason seemed to coast through life on natural talent and my parents' constant affirmation. As the party wound down and people started gathering for speeches and toasts, my father called everyone to attention. He stood on the back deck, glass of champagne raised, his smile wide and proud. "I want to thank everyone for coming today to celebrate these two amazing kids, Rebecca, who's heading off to Stanford, and Jason, who's going to USC on a full athletic scholarship." Everyone cheered. I smiled, feeling proud, despite the knot of anxiety that always lived in my stomach during family gatherings. My father continued, "Patricia and I couldn't be more proud, and as a graduation gift, we want to give them both something to help them start their adult lives." My mother appeared with 2 envelopes, one for each of us. She handed Jason his first. "Open it, honey," she said, her voice bright with excitement. Jason tore open the envelope and pulled out a set of keys and a check. His eyes went wide. "No way! Are you serious?" My father laughed. "Go look in the driveway, son." Jason ran around the side of the house, and we all followed. Sitting in the driveway was a brand new BMW 3 Series, silver with a red bow on the hood, the kind of car I had dreamed about but never thought I'd own. Jason was screaming, hugging my parents, taking selfies with the car. Everyone was congratulating him. "And the check is for $50,000 to help with expenses while you're in school," my mother said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We know athletic scholarships don't cover everything." $50,000 plus a $45,000 car. I did the math instantly. $95,000 total. My heart was pounding. I had gotten into Stanford, one of the best graduate programs in the country. I had scholarships, but they didn't cover everything. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My mother turned to me, still holding my envelope. "Rebecca, sweetheart, come here." I walked over, my legs feeling unsteady. She handed me the envelope in front of everyone, all our relatives and friends watching. I opened it slowly. Inside was a check for $5,000 and a card that read, "Congratulations on Stanford. We're so proud. Love, Mom and Dad." $5,000, not $50,000. $5,000. I stared at the check, my vision blurring slightly. Someone in the crowd said, "What did you get, Rebecca?" I held up the check, forcing a smile. "Money for school." My voice sounded fake even to me. My aunt leaned over to look. "Oh, that's nice. How much?" $5,000, I said. There was a pause, that uncomfortable pause when everyone realizes something is wrong but nobody wants to acknowledge it. My uncle tried to fill the silence. "Well, that's great. Every little bit helps with grad school, right?" "Right," I said. My mother hugged me, squeezing tight, whispering in my ear. "We knew you'd understand, honey. You're so responsible with money, you don't need as much. And Jason is going to need a car for getting to practice and games. You'll be on campus, you can walk everywhere." It wasn't about transportation, it wasn't about being responsible, it was about worth, about who mattered more, about who they valued. But I couldn't say that in front of 50 people, so I smiled and thanked them and posed for photos with my $5,000 check, while Jason revved the engine of his new BMW. Later that night, after everyone left, I found my father in his study. I knocked on the doorframe. He looked up from his computer. "Hey, sweetheart, great party, huh?" "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Sure, what's up?" I sat down in the chair across from his desk. Why did Jason get so much more than me? My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned for me. Maybe this was the moment they showed me I was valued just as much as Jason. My father's expression shifted, becoming defensive. Rebecca, your brother is going into a demanding program. He needs reliable transportation. He needs financial security so he can focus on his sport. I'm going into a demanding program too, I said quietly. Stanford's graduate tuition is $52,000 a year. I got some scholarship money, but I'm still going to need loans. I was planning to take out loans, work part-time, scrape by. Maybe my parents had something similar planned.
This is the moment where I felt something break inside me. If you are listening to this and you have ever been the one who was overlooked, the one whose achievements were never quite enough while someone else got celebrated for doing nothing, I need you to know you are not alone. Please hit that like button right now to show we are stronger than their favoritism. And in the comments, I want you to simply write, "I am worthy." Let's create a wall of support for everyone who has ever gotten the $5,000 treatment while someone else got the BMW. Stanford was brutal. The master's program demanded everything I had, and then more. I took out $120,000 in student loans to cover tuition and living expenses. I worked 3 part-time jobs, teaching assistant, research assistant, and weekend coding gigs for local startups. I slept maybe 5 hours a night. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I didn't go out, I didn't date, I didn't have time for anything except work and school. Meanwhile, Jason was posting Instagram photos from USC parties, beach weekends, and spring break trips to Cabo, all funded by our parents, who sent him money whenever he asked. When I called home, which I did less and less frequently, my mother would update me on Jason's life like it was a highlight reel. He made starting lineup. He was voted social chair of his fraternity. He's dating the prettiest girl, Rebecca, you should see her. When she asked about me, it was different. Are you getting enough sleep? You sound stressed. Maybe you're working too hard? Never, I'm proud of you, or tell me about your research. Just concern about how my choices were affecting my well-being, as if ambition was a disease I needed to recover from. In my second year of the program, I had the idea for MediTrack. I was doing research at Stanford Medical Center, watching nurses struggle with outdated medication tracking systems that led to errors and patient safety issues. I realized I could build something better, software that was intuitive, foolproof, that would save lives. I spent 6 months building a prototype in whatever spare time I could find, coding until 3 a.m., then dragging myself to class at 8. When I had something that worked, I entered it into Stanford's business plan competition. I made it to the finals. The prize was $50,000 in seed funding. I called my parents, excited for the first time in months. Maybe this was it. Maybe this would make them see me. My father answered, "Dad, I have amazing news. I made it to the finals of this startup competition. If I win, I get $50,000 to launch my company." "That's great, honey," he said, his attention clearly elsewhere. I heard the TV in the background. "What kind of company?" "Healthcare software. It could really help people. Dad, I think this could be big." Well, good luck with that. Hey, did your brother tell you he got an internship with that sports marketing agency?" "No, he didn't mention it." "Yeah, we're so proud. He's really making connections. Those are going to serve him well after graduation." I closed my eyes. "Dad, did you hear what I said about my competition?" "Of course, healthcare software. Very nice. Listen, Rebecca, I have to go. Your mother needs help with something. Good luck with your project." He hung up. I sat in my tiny studio apartment, surrounded by printouts of my business plan, my laptop open to my code, and I felt that familiar ache, the one that said no matter what I did, it would never be enough. I won the competition. $50,000 in seed funding, plus access to Stanford's mentorship network and legal resources. I called my parents to tell them. My mother answered this time. "Rebecca, we were just talking about you." "I won, Mom. I won the competition. I'm launching my company." "That's wonderful, honey. Listen, we're actually in the middle of something. Can I call you back?" She never called back. 2 days later, I saw on Facebook that they had thrown Jason a surprise party for getting the internship. There were photos, cake, balloons, all our relatives there celebrating him for an internship, while I had won a major competition and launched a company, and got a phone call that lasted 30 seconds. That's when I stopped calling them.
I didn't announce it dramatically, I just quietly pulled back, focused on building Meditrack, focused on survival. But 3 months later, they called me, my father, his warm, friendly voice. "Rebecca, we haven't heard from you in a while. How's everything going?" "Busy, working on the company." "That's actually why I'm calling. Your mother and I have been talking, and we want to invest." I almost dropped the phone. "You want to invest in Meditrack?" "Absolutely. We believe in you, honey. We always have, and we want to support your dream. How much do you need?" I was so stunned, so pathetically grateful that I didn't question it. "I'm raising $200,000 to build out the technology and start marketing to hospitals. I've got $50,000 from the Stanford Prize. I need $150,000 more. We can give you $50,000. It's not the full amount, but it's what we can afford right now. And in exchange, we want a small equity stake, say 5%. That's fair for early investors, right?" I didn't know anything about equity or valuations. I was 24 and building my first company. "Yes, that sounds fair. Dad, thank you. This means everything to me." "Of course, sweetheart. Family supports family. We'll have our lawyer draw up the paperwork." The paperwork arrived a week later. I signed it without reading it carefully. I trusted them. They were my parents. They said they believed in me. The $50,000 hit my account, and I used it to hire my first developer and rent a small office space. Meditrack started growing, slowly at first, then faster. We got our first hospital client, then a second, then a fifth. Within 30 years, we had 30 hospitals using our software. Revenue was growing. We were profitable. I was working 100-hour weeks, but for the first time in my life, I felt like I was building something that mattered. Then my parents started asking for more equity. It started at a family dinner, Thanksgiving of my second year running Meditrack. I had come home, exhausted but proud. I brought a bottle of nice wine and stories about the company's success. During dinner, my father brought it up casually. "Rebecca, your mother and I have been thinking. We took a big risk investing in your company when you had nothing but an idea. Now that it's doing well, we think our equity stake should reflect that early faith. We'd like to increase to 20%. I nearly choked on my turkey. "Dad, that's not how it works. You invested for 5%. That's what you get." My mother reached over, put her hand on mine. "Honey, we're not just investors. We're your parents. We supported you your whole life, paid for your education, gave you a roof over your head, loved you unconditionally. Doesn't that count for something?" "Of course it does, but we're not asking for the world, just a fair share. 20% is reasonable given everything we've done for you. Think about it. That's all we're asking." I thought about it for a week. The guilt ate at me. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was being ungrateful. Maybe they deserved more. I signed papers transferring an additional 15% to them, bringing their total to 20%. 6 months later, they asked for more, and again 6 months after that. Each time it was the same pattern: a family gathering, guilt about how much they'd sacrificed, subtle threats about their health, their retirement, their worries, my mother's text messages. "Your father can't sleep thinking about the company. What if it fails? What if we lose everything?" My father's calls. "We need security, Rebecca. We gave you everything. Don't we deserve to feel safe?" By year 5 of running Meditrack, my parents claimed to own 45% of my company. I owned 50%. My employees and other investors owned 5%. I was barely the majority owner of the company I had built from nothing. And then came the breaking point. Jason's business failed. He had started a sports marketing agency after college, funded entirely by our parents. They had given him $300,000 to launch it. He ran it into the ground in 18 months through bad deals, expensive parties, and general incompetence. He was broke, jobless, and living back at home. My parents called me, both of them on speakerphone. "Rebecca, we need to talk about something serious. Your brother needs help. He's going through a hard time, and family takes care of family." "What kind of help?" I asked, already knowing where this was going. "He needs a job, a real job with a real salary. We want you to hire him at Meditrack, make him a vice president, pay him $200,000 a year." I laughed, actually laughed. "Mom, Dad, Jason has no experience in healthcare or software. He can't be a VP at my company." "Our company," my father corrected. We own 45%. We're the largest minority shareholders. We have a say in major decisions, and we say, hire your brother. That's not how this works. Then we'll call a board meeting and propose it formally, my mother said, her voice cold. Or you can just do this quietly and keep the peace. Your choice. I hired a lawyer the next day, a real lawyer, not the family friend who had drawn up the original equity agreements. Her name was Margaret Torres, and she specialized in corporate law. I showed her all the paperwork, all the equity transfers, everything. She reviewed it for 2 weeks. Then she called me into her office with an expression I couldn't read. Rebecca, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is that these equity agreements are legally binding, and if they were executed properly, your parents do own 45% of your company. My stomach dropped. What's the good news? The good news is that I don't think they were executed properly. I've examined the signatures on 12 of these equity transfer documents. They don't match your signature from the original operating agreement. They don't even match each other. I think these are forgeries. I stared at her. You think my parents forged my signature to steal equity in my company? I think someone did. I want to bring in a forensic document examiner to be sure. If I'm right, these transfers are void. You own 95% of Meditrack, just like you did at the beginning. Your parents only own their original 5%. The examination took 3 weeks and cost $15,000. The results were unequivocal. 12 equity transfer agreements bore forged signatures. My parents had been systematically stealing my company from me, counting on the fact that I would never question them, never challenge them, never dare to suggest they were capable of fraud. I sat in Margaret's office, looking at the forensic report, feeling something I had never felt toward my parents before. Not disappointment, not sadness, pure, cold rage. What do we do? I asked. We confront them, Margaret said. We demand they return the stolen equity. We threaten criminal charges if they don't comply. And if they refuse, we file suit and take them to court. I confronted them at another family dinner. I brought Margaret with me. I laid out the forensic report on my parents' dining room table, the same table where they had manipulated me for years. These signatures are forgeries, I said, my voice shaking but firm. You stole from me. You've been stealing from me for 5 years. My father didn't even deny it. He just got angry. You ungrateful little bitch. We gave you everything. Everything you have is because of us. That equity should have been ours from the beginning. My mother was crying. How could you accuse us of this? We're your parents. We love you. This is what we get for sacrificing everything for you? Give back the stolen equity, Margaret said calmly. Voluntarily sign documents returning Ms. Richards to 95% ownership. Do it quietly, and we won't press charges. My father laughed. We're not signing anything. That company is as much ours as it is hers. More, actually, since we bankrolled her entire life. If she wants to fight us, we'll bury her in legal fees. We'll drag this out for years. We'll destroy her reputation. Everyone will know what a vindictive, ungrateful daughter she is. I stood up. Then I'll see you in court. I walked out of that house and never went back. My parents hired a lawyer and prepared to fight. But before the case could go to trial, something extraordinary happened. A Fortune 500 healthcare corporation called Meridian Health Systems reached out. They wanted to acquire Meditrack. They offered $180 million. Their due diligence team discovered the forged equity agreements within the first week. They flagged it immediately. We can't proceed with an acquisition if there's disputed ownership. You need to resolve this before we can close, their lead counsel told me. You need to resolve this before we can close. How long will it take to resolve this in court? I asked. Could be 2 years, maybe longer if your parents appeal, she said. I don't have 2 years. This acquisition could change everything. What's the fastest path? Let them sue you, Margaret said. Let them file first, then we respond with all our evidence. Force them to prove their case in court. A judge will see through this quickly, especially with the forensic evidence. 6 months tops. So I waited. I waited for my parents to make their move. And they did, but not the way I expected. Instead of suing over the equity, they filed a completely different lawsuit. They claimed I owed them $840,000 in unpaid loans. They claimed they owned not just the company, but my house, my cars, my investments, everything. They tried to take it all. It was the most grotesque act of greed I could have imagined, and it was exactly what I needed, because now, in front of a judge, in public record, they would have to defend the undefensible. Now, the world would see exactly who Richard and Patricia Richards really were. I spent 3 months preparing for that court date. 3 months gathering every receipt, every bank statement, every text message, every email. 3 months building an airtight case. And I spent those 3 months becoming someone different, someone harder, someone who understood that the people who raised me had never actually loved me. They invested in me, and now they wanted their return, with interest, no matter who it destroyed. The acquisition was put on hold pending the lawsuit outcome. My company, my life's work, hung in balance while my parents tried to steal everything from me in open court. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready, because I had something they didn't. I had the truth, and I had documentation of every single lie they'd ever told.
After the 30-minute recess, we all returned to the courtroom. Judge Holloway entered, and we stood. When we sat back down, I could see my parents whispering urgently with their attorney. The lawyer looked pale, defeated already. She knew what was coming. The judge arranged the documents I'd submitted in front of her, creating neat stacks. Then she looked directly at my parents' attorney. "Counselor, I've reviewed the defendant's evidence during recess. Before we proceed, I need to ask you directly. Were you aware that your clients had allegedly forged documents to claim ownership of their daughter's company?" The attorney stood quickly. "No, Your Honor, I was not aware of any forgery allegations until today." "And were you aware that the defendant claims to have proof of full loan repayment?" "I was not provided with any such documentation by my clients, Your Honor." The judge's expression hardened. "So your clients brought you a case claiming $840,000 in unpaid loans without mentioning that the defendant might have proof of repayment. And they asked you to file for asset seizure, including a company worth tens of millions, without disclosing ongoing disputes about ownership." The attorney's voice was tight. "Your Honor, I would like to request a brief continuance to consult with my clients about these new revelations." "Denied," Judge Holloway said flatly. "Your clients filed this lawsuit. They made these claims under penalty of perjury. We're going to address them right now. Call your first witness." The attorney looked at my parents. My father nodded. "The plaintiffs call Richard Richards to the stand." My father walked to the witness stand with forced confidence, the same swagger he'd always had. He was sworn in, and his attorney began her questioning. "Mr. Richards, can you explain to the court the nature of the loans you provided to your daughter?" My father settled into the witness chair. "Over the past 10 years, my wife and I provided financial support to Rebecca when she needed it, for her education, for living expenses, for her business. We gave her money whenever she asked because we love her and wanted to support her dreams." "And did you expect repayment?" "Eventually, yes. We're not wealthy people. We used our retirement savings to help her. We couldn't afford to just give away nearly $1 million. We expected that when she became successful, she would pay us back." "Has she paid you back?" "No. She's made a few small payments here and there, but nothing close to what she owes." His attorney nodded. "And regarding the company, Metatrack Solutions, can you explain your ownership stake?" "Patricia and I were the first investors. We gave Rebecca $50,000 when she had nothing. We took all the risk. Over the years, as the company grew, Rebecca agreed to give us more equity in recognition of our ongoing support and sacrifice. We currently own 45% of the company." "Did you ever force her to give you this equity?" "Absolutely not. Every agreement was voluntary. Rebecca signed the documents herself." His attorney sat down. Judge Holloway looked at me. "Ms. Richards, you may cross-examine." I stood up, walked to the center of the courtroom and pulled out a thick folder. "Mr. Richards, you said I made only a few small payments on the loans, is that correct?" "Yes." "Can you tell the court how many payments I made and the total amount?" He shifted in his seat. "I don't have the exact numbers memorized, but it was nowhere near enough." I approached the witness stand and handed him a document. "This is a complete accounting of every payment I made to you and Mrs. Richards over the past 10 years. Can you read the total at the bottom?" His face went red. "This says $1.2 million. "That's correct. I paid you back $1.2 million. Does that sound like a few small payments to you?" "Some of this wasn't loan repayment. Some of this was just gifts, money you gave us for holidays and birthdays." "So you're saying that when I wrote checks with loan repayment in the memo line, I was actually giving you birthday gifts?" The courtroom was silent. My father's attorney looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. "I don't remember the memo lines," he muttered. "Then let me refresh your memory." I handed the judge a stack of canceled checks. "Your Honor, these are copies of canceled checks. Every single one has a memo line. May loan repayment, July loan repayment, Stanford loan payment. They're all clearly labeled." The judge examined them, her expression stony. I turned back to my father. "Now let's talk about the equity agreements. You said every agreement was voluntary and I signed them myself." "Yes." "Are you sure about that?" "Positive." I pulled out the forensic document analysis and handed it to him. "This is a report from a certified forensic document examiner. Can you read the conclusion section?" He read it silently, his face draining of color. "Out loud, please," I said. He cleared his throat. "The conclusion is that 12 of the equity transfer signatures are inconsistent with the baseline exemplar and show evidence of digital manipulation." Digital manipulation? That means forgery, doesn't it? I'm not an expert. The report says forgery in the very next sentence. Can you read that sentence? I don't think I need to. "Mr. Richards," Judge Holloway interrupted, "read the sentence." His hands were shaking now. It says, "It is the opinion of this examiner that the signatures on documents E4 through E15 are forgeries." "Thank you," I said. "So, to be clear, you told this court under oath that I voluntarily signed documents giving you equity, but a forensic expert says those signatures are forged. Which is it?" "I don't know anything about forgeries. Rebecca must have signed them and forgotten." "I never forget signing away millions of dollars in equity, Dad." The word "dad" came out sharp, bitter. "Someone forged those documents. If it wasn't me and it wasn't you, then who was it, Mom?" My mother made a small sound from the plaintiff's table. My father's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I want my attorney." "You have your attorney. She's sitting right there, probably wishing she'd never met you." "Let me ask you something else. Did you or did you not tell me that you were having chest pains to pressure me into signing business documents?" "That's not—" "I have the text messages. I can read them in court right now." "I was having chest pains." "Were you?" "Because I called your doctor last week, Dr. Harrison. He has no record of you ever being treated for chest pains or heart issues. So either you lied to your doctor about symptoms or you lied to me to manipulate me. Which is it?" His face was purple now. "You had no right to call my doctor." "I had every right to investigate your claims when you sued me for $840,000 and tried to take my company." I turned to the judge. "Your Honor, I have text messages showing systematic emotional manipulation, fake health crises, threats, guilt trips, all designed to coerce me into giving up equity in my company. I'd like to submit them as evidence." "Objection," his attorney finally shouted, standing up. "This is beyond the scope of the current case. We're here about loan repayment, not—" "Counselor," the judge said coldly, "your clients are claiming ownership of a company worth tens of millions. The method by which they claim to have obtained that ownership is absolutely relevant. Objection overruled. Ms. Richards, please submit your evidence." I handed the bailiff my phone with all the text messages queued up and ready to go. The judge spent 10 minutes reading through the messages. Her expression got darker with each message. Finally, she looked at my father, still sitting in the witness box, looking like he might have an actual heart attack.
Mr. Richards, did you tell your daughter you were having chest pains to pressure her into signing business documents? I was concerned about my health and the stress. That's not what I asked. Did you or did you not tell her you were having chest pains when you were not actually experiencing cardiac symptoms? The silence stretched out. Finally, my father said quietly, I may have exaggerated my symptoms to make her understand how serious the situation was. You lied, the judge said flatly. Yes, he whispered, and you used that lie to manipulate your daughter into signing away equity in her company. I was trying to secure our retirement. Yes or no, Mr. Richards? Yes. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Judge Holloway looked at her attorney. Does the plaintiff have any other witnesses? The attorney looked at my mother, who was crying silently, mascara streaked down her face. We'd like to call Patricia Richards. No, my mother said suddenly, her voice breaking. No, I can't. I can't do this. She stood up abruptly and ran out of the courtroom, leaving her purse and coat behind. My father watched her go, something like panic in his eyes. The attorney stood frozen, clearly unsure what to do. Judge Holloway waited a moment, then said, Counselor, do you have any other witnesses? No, Your Honor, but I'd like to request a brief continuance. Denied, Judge Holloway said. Does the defense wish to call any witnesses? I shook my head. No, Your Honor. I believe the evidence speaks for itself. Very well. I'm ready to rule. Everyone please be seated. We all sat. The courtroom was packed now, more people having filtered in during the dramatic testimony. I could see a couple of reporters in the back row taking notes. This was going to make the news. My father's attorney tried one more time. Your Honor, if I could just have a moment to consult with my client. No, Judge Holloway said firmly. Your clients brought this case. They made serious accusations under oath. They've now been caught in multiple lies. We're going to finish this right now. She looked down at her notes, then directly at my father, still sitting in the witness box, looking like he might have an actual heart attack. Mr. Richards, did you tell your daughter you were having chest pains to pressure her into signing business?
The courtroom emptied slowly. Reporters approached me, but my lawyer, Margaret, intercepted them. No comment at this time. Ms. Richards will release a statement later. My father was still sitting in the witness box, staring at nothing. His attorney was packing up her briefcase with sharp, angry movements. She stopped by my table on her way out. For what it's worth, she said quietly, I'm sorry. They told me you were a troubled daughter trying to cheat them out of their rightful share. I should have dug deeper. I should have verified their claims. This is on me as much as them. You're right, I said. You should have. But at least you're admitting it now. That's more than they'll ever do. She nodded and left. My father finally stood up from the witness box. He walked toward me slowly, like a man going to his execution. Rebecca, he started. I held up my hand. Don't. Whatever you're about to say, just don't. I never meant for it to go this far. Things just got out of control. You forged my signature, I said, my voice flat and cold. You lied about having heart problems. You sued me for almost $1 million you knew I didn't owe. You tried to take my house, my car, my wedding ring from a marriage you told me to leave. Nothing got out of control, Dad. You were in complete control the entire time. You just didn't expect to lose. He looked at me with something that might have been regret if I didn't know him better. We're still your parents. That has to mean something. It means I spent 32 years hoping you'd love me the way you loved Jason. It means I worked myself nearly to death trying to prove I was worth your attention. It means I let you manipulate me because I was desperate for your approval. But it doesn't mean I owe you anything anymore. That account is closed. My mother appeared in the doorway, her mascara smeared, her eyes red. Rebecca, please, we made mistakes, but we're family. You can't just throw us away. I'm not throwing you away, I said. You threw me away a long time ago. You threw me away every time you chose Jason over me, every time you dismissed my achievements, every time you made me feel like I had to earn love that should have been freely given. This, I gestured around the courtroom, this is just me finally accepting what you've been telling me my whole life.
I'm not part of your family. I'm an investment that didn't pay out the way you wanted." "That's not fair," my mother started. "Fair?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Let me tell you what's going to happen now. The judge ordered you to return the stolen equity within 48 hours. If you don't, you'll be held in contempt and possibly face criminal charges for fraud. So you're going to sign those papers. You're going to walk away with your original 5% stake, which, by the way, is still worth about $9 million based on the acquisition offer, more money than you invested by a factor of 180. My father's eyes widened. "Acquisition offer? Did I forget to mention that? Meditrack is being acquired by Meridian Health Systems for $180 million. I'll personally clear about $89 million after taxes and payouts. Your 5% will net you roughly $9 million. So you'll be fine financially. You just won't own me anymore." My mother sat down heavily in one of the courtroom benches. $9 million? That's more than enough. That's generous, Rebecca. Why can't we just... "Because you didn't sue me for a fair share. You sued me for everything. You tried to take it all. The company, the house, the cars, the investments. Everything I built with my own hands, my own mind, my own sweat. You would have left me with nothing if the judge had ruled in your favor. So no, Mom, we can't just anything. This is what you get, 5% and my permanent absence from your life." My father found his voice again. "What about Jason? He's still your brother." "Jason is your son, the one you actually wanted, the one you actually loved. Give him my share of the family memories. I'm sure he'll appreciate them more than I did." I picked up my folder and turned to leave. My mother called after me. "Rebecca, wait! What are we supposed to tell people? Our friends, our family, everyone who knows about the lawsuit?" I stopped and looked back at her. "Tell them the truth, Mom. Tell them you tried to steal from your daughter and lost. Tell them you forged documents and lied under oath. Tell them you were so consumed with jealousy of my success that you tried to destroy me. Or tell them whatever lie makes you feel better about yourselves. I honestly don't care anymore." I walked out of the courtroom into the bright afternoon sun. Margaret was waiting for me on the courthouse steps. "That was the most satisfying case I've ever had. How are you feeling?" "Numb," I admitted. "Like I should feel something more, but I'm just empty." "That's normal. You just had to face down your parents in court and prove they were trying to steal from you. Nobody should have to do that. Give yourself time to process." My phone buzzed. It was an email from Meridian Health Systems. "Ms. Richards, we've been monitoring the status of your lawsuit. Now that it's been resolved in your favor, we'd like to move forward with the acquisition. Can we schedule a call this week to discuss next steps?" I showed Margaret the email. She grinned. "Well, that didn't take long. They must have had someone in the courtroom." "Probably," I said. "News travels fast." Over the next 48 hours, my parents' attorney delivered the signed equity transfer documents. They were returning the 40% they had stolen, leaving them with their original 5%. The signatures looked shaky, angry, but they were real this time. I had a handwriting expert verify them just to be sure. Margaret filed the documents with the court, and just like that, I owned 95% of my company again. The acquisition moved forward quickly. Meridian's team did their full due diligence and everything checked out. 6 weeks after the court case, I signed the papers selling Meditrack Solutions for $180 million. After paying investors, employees' bonuses, and taxes, I walked away with $89.7 million. My parents' 5% was worth $8.4 million after the same deductions. I had their payment sent via certified check. No note, no message, just the money they were legally entitled to. 3 days after the acquisition closed, I was cleaning out my office at Meditrack. The new owners were keeping most of the staff and the office, but I was moving on, starting fresh. I found an old photo in my desk drawer, the one from my graduation party 10 years ago. Me holding my $5,000 check, forcing a smile. Jason with his arm around his new BMW, my parents beaming with pride at their golden child. I looked at that photo for a long time, then I tore it in half and threw it in the trash. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? It's Jason. I hadn't talked to my brother in over 2 years. What do you want, Jason? I heard what happened with Mom and Dad, the lawsuit, everything. Did they send you to plead their case? No, he said quietly. They don't know I'm calling. I just wanted to say I'm sorry for all of it, for being the favorite, for taking and never questioning why they gave me so much more than you, for not standing up for you when I should have. I sat down in my empty office chair. Why are you calling me now? Because I finally grew up enough to see what they did to you, what they did to both of us, really. They turned me into a spoiled failure who can't succeed without Daddy's money, and they turned you into someone who had to fight them in court just to keep what you built yourself. We're both casualties of their narcissism. I'm just realizing it later than you did. Are you asking me to forgive them? No, Jason said. I'm asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I know I was part of the problem. But I want you to know that I see it now. I see who you really are, how amazing you are, how much you accomplished despite them, despite me, despite everything. And I'm sorry I never told you that before. I felt tears starting, the first real tears since the trial. Thanks, Jason. That actually means something. If you ever want to grab coffee or something, no parents involved, just us, I'd like that. I'd like to know my sister, the real one, not the one they tried to make you be. Maybe someday, I said. I need some time first. I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here. He hung up. I sat in my empty office holding my phone, crying for the relationship I might have had with my brother if our parents hadn't poisoned it, crying for the family I'd never really been part of, crying for the 32 years I'd spent chasing approval I was never going to get. But I was also crying with relief, because it was over. The fight was over. The hoping was over. The trying to be good enough was over. I had won, not just in court. I had won my freedom, my independence, my right to exist without their approval or their control. I locked up my office, handed in my keys, and walked out of the building that housed the company I'd built from nothing. Meridian was taking good care of it. The software would continue to help patients. My team would keep their jobs. The work would continue, but it would continue without me. I was done. I drove home to my house, the one my parents had tried to take. I walked through each room looking at everything I'd earned, everything I'd built. This was mine. Actually mine, not because they gave it to me, because I earned it. That night I got an email from my father. The subject line was empty. The message was one sentence. We hope you're happy now. I read it twice, then clicked the archive button. Not delete, archive. It existed, but it had no power over me. I wrote back one sentence.